They had also figured out that this bicycle, be glad when I don't say that anymore. This guy on a bike, his name was Lance. And so Violet turned the job of wiping him down, cooling the rags off, cool rag on him, turned that over to to Mandy, to Elaine, or granddaughter, and she got the phone and dialed up the number. Well, somebody answered, and Violet said, "Is this the Dulac residence?" And a man, or maybe a boy, said yes, and Violet said, "Is Dr. Dulac there, Dr. Matthew Dulac?" And the boy said yes, and then Violet said, "It's about, I'm calling about Lance. I believe that's his son." And the boy said, well, I'm Matt Dulac, but I'll go get my father. Is Lance okay? And Violet said, "Well, no, let me talk to your father." So anyway, the doctor got there, and Violet answered that question. "No, Lance is not okay, not at the moment, but I think he will be." And then she proceeded to explain what was going on and the condition that he was in. Now, it was a long conversation, and for a couple of reasons. I'll tell you more later, but this is a good time for me to explain a little bit more about Violet. Violet is a very major character in this whole long, big story that I'm telling. There's so much to tell about Violet that I'm not going to try to tell it all now. I think I'll kind of tell it backwards in time. At the present, Violet was retired. She had been an occupational therapist. I believe I told you that. Oh, another thing I need to clear up. I said check his vital statistics. I meant vital signs. I'm going to make mistakes like that. She had been, I can't remember how much of this I told you. She had been an occupational therapist for her career. But before that, she had been a first responder. Yes, I told you about that. Now, as a retiree, she had moved into the heart of Richland, North Virginia, to the area, that neighborhood called the Spread. Before that, she'd lived out in the country. She'd lived in a couple places. Now, she'd been divorced twice. And the first divorce was of a marriage that didn't last really all that long. She was married to a man named Jules Truffaut up in Vermont, in New Hampshire, a Dartmouth graduate. And I'll tell you about that stuff later. But that had not lasted, and I'll explain why later. When she married the second time, that man, his last name was Wessex. I'm just not sure what his first name was. But he got a good job in the Richland area. Here goes my wife's laugh. And so they moved down to the Richland area. There, Violet had gotten a job as an occupational therapist, and she'd done that. But after they divorced, she ended up having to raise two sons that they had. She raised them as a single mother. So she had quite a life so far. But they were grown and they were gone, and now she was really enjoying her retirement, especially with the presence of her granddaughter, who'd been there for about 3 years. There's more to tell you about Violet for sure, but I better stop now because the phone conversation was over, and Mandy had left out of politeness. She thought she was dying to know what was going on here. She wouldn't have mind listening in, but she thought, no, the courteous thing to do would be to leave, so she'd left the room. But now she knew that it was over, and so she was back in, and she wanted to know, what did you find out, G-Ma?